never inside. Where you going, boy? Never inside. Where you at? Never inside. Inside.
The never inside theory. Are we going outsiding? That's the theory. Let's outside. Outside ain't easy. The P-Bros are back. All right, we're back. We're back at the Never Inside Shack. This is the Never Inside Theory. Thank you guys so much for coming back. I'm with Pound Sign here, and I'm also with a special guest, Mike Vilardi. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Dude, we're fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
We've been trying to do this for a couple weeks now. Unfortunately, Luke was not feeling well last Thursday.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
We couldn't get him out of the bathroom. So we considered doing the podcast from inside the bathroom. We couldn't get the lights in there. And so we decided to just skip it for a week.
Yeah, it was kind of rough. I lost 7 pounds. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
And I didn't have 7 pounds to lose. So.
Yeah. So
I think it would have been classic to do it from the bathroom.
I think it would have been good too, a little remote.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been interesting. Yeah. That's for sure. Maybe a little echoey.
That's okay.
That's right. We couldn't soundproof the bathroom in time. So, but he's back.
Yeah,
I'm
ever. Back, better than ever. I'm healthy, and I realize you don't realize like how good it feels to feel healthy until you don't feel healthy. And then you're just like, dude, this is for the birds.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, being sick sucks for sure.
I'm not okay with this. So, but we're good to go.
Dude, there's been so much since last time, like a lot.
Yeah.
And Mike has a lot of cool things to share with us. One thing that I did want to say real quick, not to hurt myself, patting myself on the back, but we did sports shooting, the speed shooting. It's been 3 weeks now?
Yeah, that sounds
right.
Right.
And then we had dirt drive on.
Right.
And then we didn't get into it. And then we skipped a week, and then here we are. And it was we talked about it a little bit, but there was how many people? There was 2 groups. We were in the second group, right?
Oh yeah.
And and so how did the scoring go? Like we finished up just real quick. I got number. Do you remember what the email said?
Yeah.
Like
so out of the 2 groups, we were the second group.
Right.
You had the best run, the number one best run out of all 5 from each people or whatever.
In our group.
Right. Yeah. Like the fastest with the highest scoring.
The highest scoring, right.
Yeah. I had the best. I won out of both groups overall.
Right. So it was a pretty good day for us shooting.
Yeah.
So
it was awesome. Gotta get out there with the old Siggy. The old Siggy, it's all tuned up and crushing it out
with
there.
The red dot and
the flat trigger with the dual adjustable trigger. I got the Barstow barrel on that bad boy. I got the Magwell. I got the all the springs to make the trigger pull lighter. Mike, you're obviously have you ever touched a gun before, Mike?
Never in my life.
Is that just one of those cool Zoom backgrounds that you have back there with a bunch of guns?
So it's not real.
So
no, I would say for the last I've been around guns all my life, but for the last 13 years, have consumed my life in the firearm industry. I worked for Ruger Firearms Manufacturing in Prescott, Arizona.
What a cool job that must have been, dude.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff there. I think the coolest thing I did was for 6 years I spent in the R&D department as the function fire technician. So basically I just shot thousands of rounds every day of prototype firearms and put them through rigorous testing.
Dude, what a terrible
before
job.
they launch.
How did you get up in the morning?
How'd you motivate yourself to get to work?
Everyone always says that's got to be the coolest job ever. And at first it was, but when you get to the point to where you're shooting 7,000 to 8,000 rounds a day, every day,
That's unfathomable.
Yeah.
it's you just never I never went out shooting after that. I didn't go out on the weekends to go shoot. It didn't sound fun anymore because it was what I did every day.
That makes sense.
I called it high impact hand exercises. Because you're just.
So what are you doing? What do you need to put that many rounds through there for?
A lot of magazines full of ammo. What do we need to do?
Absolutely necessary.
When they develop firearms, they want to put it through a series of tests, and a lot of it is endurance testing. So
Sure.
You're testing the components and the parts to see how long it takes before they start to wear and break down. And they, every company is different, I think. We used to do 20,000 round tests, and we do that over and over and over again. And periodically throughout that, we'd break that firearm down and start looking at components to see,
Okay.
where there's stress in those parts, how long those parts are going to last. Because they want to build a quality product that, I don't think there's any customer who's going to take a gun to 20,000 rounds because ammo is so expensive. But
No doubt.
you want to build a quality firearm, and you want to make sure that you put it through that rigorous testing to make sure that it's going to last.
I had a question. So we'll go out shooting at the range, and we're just pumping a bunch of rounds through there, and the barrel's getting hot and things are getting hot.
Mm-hmm.
I always wondered if you just keep on rolling, you don't let the thing cool off, is that gonna be a problem, or can you just sit there for a couple hours and just hammer away at it?
It depends on what you're shooting, so caliber wise,
So I got a 9, right? Glock. I Glock 48.
Okay, so a 9. When I did my testing, their protocol was every 100 rounds to cool. In between, so I'd shoot 100 rounds, cool that firearm off.
That's quite a bit.
And then go back through.
And is that how that's regardless of the how rapidly you're firing?
I would shoot really fast. In fact, I hope nobody out there that still works for Ruger is watching this, but I would push it. I would do 250 round intervals of just rapid fire.
Wow.
I'd have a box full of loaded magazines, and I'd just slap them in as fast as I can and shoot as fast as I could.
God, how expensive is that? Now.
Yeah.
Well, they buy ammo by the pallet load. I mean,
no doubt.
pallets and pallets of ammo
no
for
doubt.
testing.
So you're not going to warp what we're doing. We're not going to go out there, and I'm not going to just do too much because I can't afford 200 rounds.
I feel like you need to be like machine gun. That's you've got like the 500 round drum somehow attached to this thing, and you're just holding that trigger on until it's getting red hot and eventually finally melts, right? Like that's the only way you're gonna get some change.
Yeah, when you get into your larger caliber like rifles and stuff like that, like 7.62 or 5.56 even, you can create a lot of heat from continuous fire.
Right.
That could be detrimental to the barrel, but with handguns, I doubt the average person is going to have, first of all, that many mags set up, that much ammo to be able to.
Okay.
I remember when I was in the Marine Corps, we had the machine guns we'd shoot. Back then, it was the saw, and then I think it was the 240 Golf. It was a bigger machine gun. The 7.62 rounds. It was the belt fed guns. And those things, if you ever see them on TV, they've got the handle sticking off the top of the barrel. That's literally for when it gets too hot, you can just grab the barrel, you turn it, take it off, put the new barrel on, and then just keep going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that they actually, it is a thing, they have to consider when you're shooting that many rounds that quickly through that metal.
Dude, I'm glad that you were able to do that as a job, but I feel like nowadays they can make a little robot finger that can sit there and just rapidly, you hit go and go get a coffee while it rattles off, 200 rounds.
It's designed
when
just
you
like
take the human
It's a little finger.
The problem is, though, when you take the human element out of it,
you're not truly testing it, right?
You're not getting real testing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You want to be able to, because there's a lot of human error involved too with the function of a firearm. How you hold that firearm. It's just I feel personally when you take that human element out of it, you're not getting the true effects of testing a firearm to its fullest potential.
That makes sense.
And what could happen, because we used to do that too. When we get to the final stages of that product, then we start doing jury testing, and we'd pull different people in that different levels of experience, from the shop floor, male, female. Some people had never shot a gun before. that sort of thing, and let them shoot and record, any failures or things that happen, and then go back through that data and try to figure out if that was actually, something that the firearm was doing, or if it was, shooter related.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's got to be, man, I would imagine, take all kinds of data to really make any kind of solid, realizations of what needs to change, because this person doesn't know what they're doing, but this is happening because of it, which could be dangerous or whatever,
Well, even how you hold a firearm, especially when we did some testing with 1911s, the most typical way that people hold, a semi-automatic pistol is with their thumbs, off to the side of that, kind of elevated. You know what I'm saying? And I have a tendency when I shoot to actually, when I wrap I hold my thumb down over that, because on different types of firearms, and it's more common, I think, in the 1911, where you've got your slide stop on the side of that firearm with your fingers up and elevated there. Sometimes the shooters would actually inadvertently hit that slide stop, and it would lock the slide open with still rounds in the magazine. So different styles of shooting, how you hold that pistol. It's just a variation of things that could possibly go wrong or cause, inadvertent malfunctions.
And then when you identify that, then you guys go or somebody goes to the drawing table and says, okay, what do we do about it, right? Do we accept it?
Or you look at it and go, okay, well, it's only happening with this particular shooter. Every time this shooter shoots this same firearm, but everybody else that's shot this firearm doesn't have that problem. Then you start looking at more of, okay, where their hand position is, and going, okay, this guy's style of shooting, he has a tendency to actually hold open that slide stop, not knowing it, because there's a lot of, I wish I had some high-speed video to share with you guys, because it's amazing to take high-speed video of a firearm and then slow it down and look at all the movement that's going on in there.
That's cool.
That would be cool.
You think a casing just comes right out and flies out of the gun, but in reality, that thing rattles and bounces around inside the chamber before it comes out.
No shit.
I got
to see that.
It's violent.
Huh. Yeah, you just picture it because it's so fast. It's perfect little ting.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not that at all. When you slow it down and look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, that thing looks like it danced around in there forever before it came out.
Yeah, that's a trip. That's cool. All right, so there's something about you that keeps coming up that I keep hearing about, and I really want to hear more about, and that's was it haunted houses? No, ghost towns.
Ghost towns.
That you've been...
Close. Haunted houses.
Same thing.
Ghost towns.
There's haunted houses in ghost towns.
Yeah, for sure.
Ghost houses and haunted towns. Yeah. So that's your thing, huh? You check it out.
Well, yeah, my family and I, we love to camp. Probably March and April, the only 2 months that we take off from camping, because I've got a small farm and we raise a lot of our own animals, and that's when we do our meat chickens. So in a couple weeks here, I'll be butchering about 47 meat birds.
Chickens for meat.
Yeah, to process and put in our own freezer. So, but the rest of the year, we try to take 1 week in a month to get out and go camp. And one of my favorite places to go is Tombstone, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get
We do that twice a year. We do it in February. We do it in October. And this year I was lucky enough. We were just there in February, so I was lucky enough at the campground to find a spot for Eldorado week in October, which we've never done. Eldorado, we usually do that before, and that's like it's a big celebration. It's kind of like it happens right around the same time that the shooting at the OK Corral happened all those years ago.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's a huge celebration. But our favorite thing to do down there is not so much the touristy stuff, but to do research and find old towns that don't exist anymore, and then hike into them and just explore. We're getting ready. I think this year we're going to go back to Charleston. Charleston popped up right across the San Pedro River from Millville. Millville was where they were doing all the, it's about 8 miles outside of Tombstone. And that's where they were doing all the milling for the ore, because there was no water. They couldn't find water yet, a water source in Tombstone itself. So 8 miles down the road, they'd haul the ore. They had a bunch of stamping mills there, and a town popped up right across the San Pedro River to support that. And that was Charleston. And Charleston's got a lot of great history. John Slaughter, who was a famous lawman, he was actually probably 6 years after the OK Corral incident was appointed. He was elected sheriff of Cochise County. You got Frank Stillwell. Frank Stillwell used to own a bar and a livery in Charleston. And if that sounds familiar, he was the guy that supposedly assassinated Morgan Earp and then was later killed in Tucson by Wyatt Earp. So a lot of history down there.
Yeah.
But when we hiked in the first time, there's literally still walls from some of the adobe buildings from that town. This year when we go, we're going to check out the town again, but we're going to try to hike a mile outside of town and find the old cemetery. So pretty excited about that.
So how well known like is this place, like Charleston? Is that like is that something you go out there, you make the hike, and then there's, you know, you got another group of, you know, a couple groups of people out there, or is it like it's really not, people don't really know about it?
I don't think a lot of people know about it. Millville is set up like kind of like a state park where you can pull in and you can kind of hike these little trails they have set up, and they've got placards where buildings used to be.
Okay.
And then there was a bridge at one time that went across from Millville to Charleston. But to get to Charleston, you've literally got to find an area that you can hike into and then either follow the river or cross the river to get to it, because it almost sits on a little island in the middle of the river.
That's pretty cool.
And
super cool, right?
Yeah, the river's claimed quite a bit of it. You know, they diverted that river at one point to bring it closer to Millville, and it was kind of the demise, I think. You know, as you know, 100 years goes on, you've got
didn't work
heavy
out so
flows
well.
and light flows. It's just to put stuff out. Yeah, so some of the buildings are lost, you know, reclaimed by the San Pedro.
Now that's after things slowed down and business wasn't what it was, and then people leave and then they don't maintain it anymore, and then it starts to kind of go away.
Yeah,
right?
it falls apart. Yeah.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
So what kind of hike, like what kind of distance hikes are these to get to these places?
It's not too bad. I mean, off the main road, Charleston's only about, I'd say it's about a half a mile off the main road.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a really bad hike to get to it. All these little towns were relatively close to Tombstone because they supported, you know, Tombstone was one of the richest silver mineral concentrations in all of Arizona. So it was a pretty big boom town back in the day.
So you said they didn't have a water source there.
Mm-hmm.
So where the hell did they get their water from?
Well, I can't remember the year, but I think it was like 4 or 5 years into it, maybe a little longer. There was a company that basically paid to have a pipeline put in from another area to bring water there. And right about that time, they hit water and right around the 500-foot level. Some of these mines.
Right now, dude?
That sucks.
Yeah, that was part of the demise of Tombstone, was that once they got down to around the 500-foot level in a lot of those mines, they had a lot of seepage, a lot of water coming in. In fact, to combat that, they brought in huge pumps to pump. I mean, they were pumping 500,000 gallons of water a day, you know,
to
out
try
of
to
these
get
mines.
so they can continue to mine, right?
Yeah, to continue to mine. So that and the price of silver falling was kind of, you know, the demise of Tombstone mining days.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love history like that. That's really good stuff. There's actually a guy I just did a tattoo on the other day is a history buff, and he's got a YouTube channel. I'll figure it out before we're done here, but he's got some cool stuff like that on his channel. But yeah,
there's a lot of rich history there. A lot of rich history. And
do you guys camp out there, or do you stay like overnight type thing?
Yeah, we'll usually go for several days, and we stay at it's more glamping when we go there because we stay at little RV park. But it's a great little RV park, and they've got some access out one of their back gates on some trails. And I just recently found, which was weird because you know, you're out in this area year after year after year, and then all of a sudden you discover something new that was right there and hidden the whole time, you know. And part of that was a train trestle. It was an old wooden bridge that went across this creek bed, and I took some really cool photos of it. But it's like, I've been in that area for so long, and how did I not ever see it before? You know?
Yeah.
So that's one of the joys of going out there. We do the touristy stuff for a day, and then, I'll do a lot of research and homework and a lot of Google Maps, looking at aerial views, and try and find old foundations and things that are still showing up in satellite imagery.
So a lot of this stuff isn't completely mapped out. Then, like, you're trying to find something that somebody else hasn't already found, or very few people, just to kind of get something a little bit cooler.
Yeah, I'd say very few people. I mean, a lot of people know. I mean, you can find Charleston on the map, but like getting to it is, the trick, and it's not a really hard trick, but it's just, how do you get into that area so you don't get the same kind of traffic?
It takes a little effort, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like a movie, like you look at today's maps, but then Tom Hanks comes in and looks like an old map and is like, well, this is what we should be looking at. See here, the pathways. And
I'm guessing you bring like a metal detector?
No, only because it's illegal. A lot of those areas are either private property or state owned, and it's illegal to
just to pull anything,
hunt for artifacts and stuff on there, or to take anything. Yeah, so I don't.
You don't mess with that, huh?
I would love to, but I don't want to end up in a federal prison.
Has
somewhere.
Like a little piece of an old adobe wall accidentally fell into your backpack while you were walking out?
I can either confirm or deny that.
Fair enough. That's what they said about when we were in Hawaii. I remember that. Like, okay, you're not allowed to take any rocks back from the coast. Like,
was it rock? It was rocks.
Lava rocks, and then
you're like, oh, because they don't have enough of them.
Yeah, I think we looked at them like, I don't think anybody's gonna worry if I take this little round white rock. But I guess if you do that by every person that visits Hawaii, then they would eventually take the whole island.
No rocks.
All
the rocks would be gone.
Yeah, I think it keeps it from people, wanting to find things and dig them up and destroying things.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I think that's mostly why those laws are in place.
Yeah.
If they weren't, you'd probably have just people out there excavating the place.
They would just take the whole thing to a museum somewhere, and
looking for.
It happens
Doc
here
Holliday's
in Arizona all the time. There's a lot of Indian
shooter.
artifacts all over this whole state. That people find pottery shards and whatever else.
Yeah.
And, you watch people get into arguments on Facebook about leave it there, and other people are why not take it, but it's essentially somebody else's trash.
Well, if you think about it, they just kind of left it there, Yeah.
Or died or something. Like a loser.
No different from the beer bottle you threw out the window that 100 years from now somebody's going to find and be like, oh my gosh,
this
is
antique
Must
way that they
leave
drink.
it there. Leave it there. We don't want to disturb the history.
That's cool, dude. So do you have your vehicles? Do you go out, and you know where I'm going with this? Any 4-wheel drive trucks and stuff that you use when you guys go camping and find cool trails and stuff?
Yeah, so I have a cool setup. I have a Dodge Ram pickup truck, 4-wheel drive. I bought a Diamondback hardcover for the back.
Okay.
And I actually haul my 2 quads. I side load them onto that cover, and then pull the travel trailer behind that. So
you're set up.
Yeah,
cool.
So we'll use, even when we just do our weekend trips up into the Mogollon Rim, we dry camp up there. I always take the quads, and then we cruise around and find really cool areas, and sometimes old mines. Arizona's littered with a lot of mining in Arizona, so
that's cool, dude. Yeah, I'm
camps.
looking forward to getting out there. When Slow Burn and I take another trip out to see my dad, we'll definitely hook up again. That's where the first time we hung out. You guys remember Slow Burn was on the show a 3 episodes ago. And
how could anyone forget?
Yeah, she left her mark for sure.
Yeah,
and then we went up there to see our dad, and then she told me that you lived in the area, and we had dinner, and here we are.
I've known Slow Burn for 30 years now.
Yeah,
easily 30 years.
She gets friends and keeps friends. She definitely does a good job at staying in touch with people, and it's kind of cool because I met a lot of her friends, just like you, and everybody's super cool. So
you live in Prescott, is that right?
Prescott Valley. So I'm just about 20 miles outside of Prescott. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple things. Number one, what the fuck's the deal with Prescott? That is not how it's spelled. Every time I say it, I know that, because my dad lives there, and I understand that it really annoys people
It sure
from
does.
Prescott
Yeah.
when you call it Prescott, but it's just like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong every time I say Prescott. It's like, is it just like a lazy way of saying it, but it's been done for so long that you're wrong if it's not said that way, or what's the deal?
Well, you're definitely wrong if it's not said that way. You'll offend people, for sure.
Yeah, sure. No doubt. There's somebody just the other day that I was saying it to. I'm like, we're not even living there. And they still are having a problem with it.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing. A lot of people joke around here, but some of the locals are pretty adamant that it is spelled Prescott, and for the average person, that's how they pronounce it. But everyone here calls it Prescott.
Yeah, for sure.
Like biscuit.
Pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know. It's just a local dialect, and that's just how people like to call it. And be careful if you call it something else in the presence of somebody that lives here.
No,
they
they
let you know.
It's a cool place though, man. It's a lot of fun.
It
We've been I can't remember what lake it was near there. My daddy's had these cool kayaks, and we went kayaking out there. We actually, was it a bald eagle?
Yeah.
We were out there. What do you remember? What lake that was? I can't remember. It was nearby there. Kind of.
So you got Goldwater, you've got Willow and Watson.
Watson sounds.
Might be Watson.
There's if you drive through there, they got campgrounds all set up around it.
That would be Watson.
Watson. Okay, so we were out there and we were
a little
kayaking,
boat launch.
Little boat launch. The water was really low, but you and I were racing across it. Like, it was that small.
We watched a bald eagle dive and catch a fish right in front of us.
Right, I got it on video somewhere. I'll try to find it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Good population of bald eagles.
Yeah, it was definitely out there, and it's crazy because so our dad lives. It's desert, right? Like, his backyard's rocks and his front yard's different kind of rocks, and then outside of his property are more rocks, and then you drive minutes and now you're in the forest, like in the forest near a lake, tall trees, and it's crazy. Like, right there, you just go drive over to the forest and you're not in the desert anymore, it seems.
Well,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that where Dad's at is, they kind of just mined out that whole area and just cut into the rocks to build homes there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's necessarily desert right there. I think that's just the cheap way to keep it.
It just looks very deserty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, right?
You got more of the scrub brush and everything else, but that's one of the things I love about this area is that it's kind of the best of all worlds.
Yeah.
In that sense, you don't have to travel for very long to get into the forest and be in the pines. And then at the same time, then you can be in these, really cool flat areas. A lot of ranching going on up here. I think in episode 7, you guys were talking about how you were down by Gila Bend, and you went to go camping.
I
and you came up.
I think that's Gila Bend.
I know
Gila
people
Bend,
in Prescott say Gila.
I'm not from down south, so Gila Bend, yes. And you guys came across a bowl. Well, there's a lot of free ranging areas. So a lot of these ranchers don't just have their own property. They have state lease land that they have the grazing rights to, and you'll encounter cattle all over the state.
Totally had like tags on them.
Yeah. They were obviously not just like wild animals, but they were right there, and it was a kind of a shocker. Sort of hauling ass through the desert. Imagine if one of those guys was standing in the middle of one of those roads. That'd be bad.
Yeah, you don't want to hit one of those things because not only will it wreck your vehicle, but you'll be liable for that animal.
I don't know. The size of that thing, we probably could have hit it. It would have just kind of shook us off and then kept on walking. And we would have been on the side of the road with steam shooting out our radiator.
Right.
But it was cool.
So in your area, I got to ask, because I've been there a few times to visit my dad, and like, it's just, trees in every direction. Right. So there's got to be like a cool backpacking. Do you do actual like backpacking at all?
I don't do a lot of backpacking because, how can I put it? I'm built for feed,
sucks.
not for speed.
Fair enough.
So endurance wise, I do get out and do a lot of hunting, and that's probably the extent of my.
Well, that's kind of the same thing. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll set up a campsite somewhere, and then I'll, spend, 8 days up in the forest.
Well, you got to carry around a lot of weight when you're doing that, from my understanding.
What I try to do is I use my quad for my main mode of transportation on more of the main fairways. And I'll have a smaller pack for when I get off my quad to hike around, but I'll keep a bulk of the heavier stuff on the quad so that if I do get something down, then I can just go back and grab what I need to start field dressing and getting ready to pack an animal out.
Gotcha. That's cool. Do you know of any like maybe trails that people talk about around there that are really good for backpacking, like a 3-4 day hike?
Yeah, there's the Arizona Trail, which is about an hour and a half away, and that starts out. I mean, it goes from the bottom of the state all the way to the top of the state.
Oh, okay.
And one of the cool sections that a lot of people like to hike is they'll start out down in Payson and then hike up through the Mogollon Rim and on up, towards Flagstaff and all the way up. And that's a really well-known backpacking trail. I know I have a couple friends that have done 4 or 5 days on that trail, different sections of it.
That's cool.
There's a lot of cool stuff to see up here.
I mean, there has to be, just driving through it. I'm looking at it. I'm like, there's no way there's not some epic trails through this.
Yeah,
there's a lot. We've got there's another cool hiking trail not far from here, which is it's for the Granite Mountain Memorial. So
I drive past that every time.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't remember how many years ago that was, but we lost 19 firefighters.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I still haven't seen that movie actually.
Yeah. The movie doesn't do it justice.
Well, yeah. I mean, can you do justice to a bunch of heroes dying? No, not really.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. I'm gonna come check that because I have a backpacking trip coming up in a month. As a matter of fact.
Oh wow.
Going to Oregon, right?
In Oregon, yeah. I'm gonna go do the Rogue River Trail.
That's cool.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be pretty cool. It's gonna be 40 miles, and apparently. It's kind of cool because the guys I'm going with are apparently they're like, they're some hard chargers like me. They're talking like 15 miles a day, they're like the whole thing in 3 days. And it seems to me like most people do it like in 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So
I feel it's exactly what you want to do.
It's perfect. That's why I'm not like, trying to invite other people because I'm not going to bring the person that can't keep up with this.
Yeah, dude. You don't want to.
I always feel that, whenever I go hiking or hunting, going slower. To me, like my wife is a runner.
So she's bounding.
Every day she runs, and she does like 14 miles on Saturdays. We're just starting into the racing season for her.
Wow.
She does a lot of 10Ks and some halves here and there. But I did a hike with her one time on Mount Humphreys up in Flagstaff. And at the time I'm living down here and she was living up in Flagstaff. So there's a huge difference in elevation. And when you're acclimated to that, it's a lot easier for you. But when you come from a lower elevation and end up in a higher elevation trying to hike, it's really hard on you. So I was dragging and, and she's that kind of person that just wants to push through as fast as she can to get to the summit. But I find in my experience that you miss so much by pushing so hard. Slow down and start to enjoy what's around you, and you'll see more, wildlife and just a lot cooler things. So
it's true. I'm guilty of that debacle constantly going on in my head too, because I hiked the John Muir Trail back in 2012 or 2013 or something like that. But that was 221 miles all said and done. After you get
right?
down to the
that
bottom.
Was my reaction too. I'm like,
with
that
me.
just doesn't seem right, dude.
Yeah. And most people do it in 21 days. We did it in 13.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So we were basically averaging like 18 miles a day or something like that for 2 weeks.
Was that fun?
You're like this is fun for you? Like you did this on purpose?
Yeah, it was fun.
You weren't being chased?
It was fun, but I regret not slowing down and really enjoy, because there were some spots there that were just like, you'll never see that in person unless you're standing there. Obviously you'll never see that in person unless you're standing there.
But, you just stand there.
But you can't understand it unless you're standing there, and most people will never be standing there looking at that ever in their life. And I sat there just pushing along, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that even back then I was a tattoo artist, and I don't get paid vacations,
Right.
It's like every day that I get back sooner is a day that I don't have to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills.
Right.
You know what I mean? So once I realized, we did like 20 miles first day and then like 20 the second day, I was like, man, if we keep this up, we can do this. I think even my buddy Brad that went on the trip with us was just like, what are we doing, dude? And he's like better shape than me, and he went along with it, but I think he understood I kind of needed to knock time off to be able to make sure I paid my bills and stuff.
Yeah. you try to get
But
through
I
it.
regret
But you
it.
asked yourself where that comes from, though. I mean, is it, when you're out there and you're pushing that hard? Why you got to ask yourself, why are you pushing so hard? Are you just trying to get through this as quickly as you can, or
I don't think
to me,
that's
it's like,
that's a good,
what-
really good question.
yeah.
He's like,
I mean,
check the box.
what's the point in doing a hike like that if you're not going to enjoy what's there?
Well, absolutely. And that's the way I see it when I look back at it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I'm sitting there, I've got different motivations, maybe money. But even beyond that, even when that's not the case, I do have a tendency to always try to like push it a little bit harder, test myself, I guess, is what I'm really doing.
Yeah.
But
I know for my wife, like her biggest thing when she runs is that she has to run. I mean, that's her way of releasing aggression and, releasing stress. But on her really long runs, I think it becomes that mental battle of, I just want to get this done and I want to get it done quickly, you know? And I think a lot of hikers too run into that too. You've been out there for so long, you're at that point where you're just like, I just want to get this done.
that definitely happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's crazy though.
So the next time I'm going to try to get up there when Slow Burn and I go back to Prescott. I got a Jeep, right? We had talked about on Dirt Drive that I was looking at it. So I found a 96 Cherokee.
What are we doing after this?
Oh yeah, we're going to go after this podcast. We're going to go find a trail and something mellow and just make sure the 4-wheel drive works. quite frankly,
Go get a little B-roll.
Yeah, exactly.
You
So
know what I mean?
So obviously now I've shifted gears a little bit, and we use all trails for a lot of things as far as trying to find a lot of hiking stuff. We found some really cool stuff that way.
Yeah,
and it's cool because you can record your hikes and this and that. So anyway, and then they show you some trails for OHV. Yeah. So
Avenza is another good app.
Avenza.
Yeah, it's a PDF reader, and you can download basically topographical maps of different areas, and it gives you all the roads that you can drive on. It's some cool trails. So that's another cool app to use, especially if you're looking for roadways to go on.
We'll have to check that out. I think I came across that a couple of times.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, it'd be cool to get over there and we were thinking about RVing because she wants to bring her kids, and I think it'd be a fun deal. Get an RV and maybe we can tow a Jeep or something to get out there.
Yeah.
So, but it'd be fun to go out with you guys, and so we'll see something.
I
cool.
gotta try to get out there too. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I know a lot of cool areas. Yeah, especially up on the Mogollon Rim. There's you get a lot of guys in side by sides go up there. They come up from the valley, Flatlanders down there in Phoenix, and
you said
they
you got
just
some
cruise.
Flatlanders. That's Flat Earthers. I'm thinking of. Never mind.
Yeah, you're thinking Flat Earthers.
Same thing.
We call them Flatlanders, and because when you're up in Prescott in the wintertime and they're up here in shorts, freezing, it's like, yep, they're from the valley for sure.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the asshole.
I'm always in shorts wherever I go. That's true.
So you have quads, but I couldn't remember. You said did you have like an off-road vehicle? Like
a
Jeep?
Dodge Ram.
Yeah, my truck is a 4-wheel drive.
Okay.
So you kind of, I'm originally from California, and every truck I ever owned in California was 2-wheel drive because you just didn't need 4-wheel drive anywhere. But when you got out here, there's a lot of pavement, but there's a lot of dirt roads too.
Yeah.
And I realized, especially when I was hunting, that the other Dodge that I had in 2-wheel drive just wasn't going to get through some of those areas. So it was kind of a necessity to have a 4-wheel drive vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, I still live in California, and I got to have 4-wheel drive. Just the amount of times I use it is very slim. It's usually only when I put myself in the situation to where
Right.
I'm going to be using it.
Intentionally,
Yeah, like I'm going off roading.
Yeah.
But I can't have a truck without it now. It's just like
we've used it several times, and it's a blast because you can.
I
really
probably
go
would never buy
places.
another truck without 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, I don't think I would. But I got a full size truck like you. You got a Ram?
Yeah.
You said?
Yeah,
So,
1500.
It's awesome,
Yeah.
but someday I'm going to get another. I love my truck because it serves so many different purposes. It's my daily driver. When we're building a new freaking business, I always got something to haul the wood around in.
Yeah.
All
tools and stuff.
Yeah, and then it's just and then camping, obviously. But someday I'm going to get. I can't decide. Well, I guess by the time I'm able to afford it, there may be something else I want. But I want either like a Jeep, like what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but I really want a 4Runner, but like a new one that's all overlanded out. That'd be so
Yeah,
cool.
man. There's so many different things.
Or a Tacoma like
Yeah.
that would be really
I've kind of
freaking cool.
gone down the rabbit hole on all the things that you can do on these Cherokees XJs. You know, they're freaking. It's crazy.
I had one. I had a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee. You know, with the straight six in it.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
What year is yours?
96.
96.
Yeah. And it was great. I mean, there's really nowhere that vehicle won't go. You know.
Yeah, I was looking at it compared to your truck over at the shop where they're parked right next to each other.
The size difference?
Yeah, dude, it's like the wheelbase is tiny, and you're like, oh, it's like a truck, only smaller, you know. But you're gonna go places with that, and because it's the shorter wheelbase, you can get around without high
skinnier.
And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what we can do with it. So
yeah, you definitely get in a lot more places that I can't get my truck, and that's one of the reasons why I use the quads too. I love having the 4-wheel drive, but I'm limited on where I can go, not so much because of the terrain, but because the trail is so narrow and it's so thick in there. So even with a side-by-side, I think you can run into issues with that. So I love using the quad to be able to get into those tighter places and get further in.
That does sound fun too.
Yeah.
There's some quads out there.
I'm going to have to, throw some trades out there.
Yeah. That's right.
Hey, so I got to ask you, man. Well, all of them are just calling my name, but I'm looking at all these guns behind you, and the one that's calling my name the most, surprisingly, probably to you, is the one that's directly behind you, and you got that lever action.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that a Henry, or what are we looking at here?
That is a Ruger-made Marlin. Ruger bought Marlin a couple years ago when Remington went into bankruptcy, because Remington owned Marlin. And so they bought the Marlin line, and that's an 1895 model in 4570.
Nice.
And I really had to pull strings in order to get my hands on one. They're just really hard to get right now.
I think all the lever actions are kind of hard to get right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially the Marlins, because like I said, they just literally started ramping up production in the last year on the Ruger-made Marlins, and they were just hard to get. The actual CEO of the company, he hooked me up.
Dang.
So,
that's cool, man.
That's the hookup.
Yeah. It was,
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Have you?
They weren't even doing employee purchases at the time on them. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a company called Range Point Precision? I think it is. I think that's it. They make. I follow them on Instagram, but they make some really cool aftermarket stuff for those lever action guns for the Marlins and stuff. Like super cool hand guards, and then just all like cool butt stocks. And anyway, go check it out. They're cool. I recommend it.
I'll have to check that out. I love my lever action. Hopefully someday when I get more time, I want to get into more of the cowboy action shooting. I've got my Ruger Vaquero 45 long Colt back there on the wall too.
I think
that is so cool. Yeah.
And I'd love to go out and just do cowboy action shooting, SAS competitions, just things like that would be a lot of fun.
Those quick draw competitions blow my mind, dude. They are just now it's a little silly because they're almost laying completely back.
Yeah, it's
right.
like
So
the gun's already sideways.
It's kind of pointing it that way. You just pull the trigger. I get it,
Yeah.
But even with that said, it's like that's just amazingly quick.
Yeah.
Well, I know some guys that do mounted cowboy shooting 2 competitions. So,
that'd be cool. Too.
They're on horseback,
That's
riding through a course in an arena, shooting balloons. I mean, they're shooting blanks.
Because a blank will pop a balloon, right? If
there's enough powder coming out of that they'll
that.
pop the balloons with it. So that's how that works in the mounted shooting. But it's super cool to watch and a lot of fun.
And those horses have got to be kind of trained to do that too, right?
Yeah,
the guns
definitely.
are going off and they're staying focused.
Yeah,
God, that's cool.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. I always thought it'd be cool to have horses. I mean, imagine going backpacking on a horse, dude. That'd be the shit.
Yeah.
Horses are so expensive now. I mean, let's look back. Let's look back before the invention of the automobile. Everybody had a horse,
right?
And only the rich could afford an automobile.
Right.
And now it's the reverse, because now everyone has an automobile, but you've got to have a lot of money to own a horse because there's just so much cost in it now.
Yeah. It's true.
It's pretty crazy.
I mean, you got to have land. You got to have,
Mhm.
and if you don't, you got to pay someone else for their land, and you got to,
Oh, and feed costs are through the roof right now.
think of how much you eat, and then
Oh.
multiply that
Oh,
times
dude.
how
Just and if you're not, and then just to have a horse now, just as essentially as a pet, right? Now, I mean, there's some people that are probably doing
family.
a family, right?
Yeah,
that are doing
I think
something
that's
with
where
it. But
I think that's where it's gone. I think that the majority of horse owners, they like to show their horses. They'll do the riding. I mean, I work with in the industry that I'm in now. I work with a lot of cowboys and ranchers, and when you look at a cowboy horse compared to the average person that has horses in their backyards, it's two different worlds because those animals are work animals and they're
Right.
well trained and they serve a purpose. Where you get people that have their show horses, whatever else, get pampered and all this other stuff, and it's mind boggling. There's still like two different worlds to it,
for sure,
but it can get very expensive.
yeah, I think that'd be fun. I'm gonna settle for a dog. So Slow Burn has three. Well, they're good sized dogs. Two of them are puppies. We were talking about that, and one of them, Precious, they're pit bull and terrier mix or something like that. She's just the coolest dog. So I'm gearing her up to go camping and backpacking with us. So she's got her own little harness that goes around there, and then the bags that hang off of it, and the tactical leash. I don't know what makes it tactical, but that's what Amazon said.
It's black.
So I was like, well, of course I need that one,
Yeah.
And she can carry her own stuff, so I'm excited. And that's another cool thing about having a Jeep is I can put the dogs in there. You're not worried about tearing up.
This is a tactical coffee cup, so I mean,
exactly
What did that say?
Born to hunt.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be fun too. I'm excited.
That's cool.
It's always cool. I've had dogs most of my life growing up, and to have one. And then Luke had Guinness for a long time, and Guinness would go hiking with you and camping, and cool dog, man.
Guinness was like the coolest camping, hiking dog.
Yeah.
She would just disappear down the trail for hours. And then, you kind of start like, better start worrying about what's happening with Guinness. And then, you just walk up on her, just sitting in the middle of the trail, just kind of waiting for you.
Just chilling.
Waiting for you.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I've
cool.
got a Queensland that would take camping with us a lot. And he's the same way. He loves to be off leash and just roam. And he's never too far away. He's still keeping an eye on you and what's going on. And especially my girls have two little ones, 9 and 7. He will protect them with his life.
Yeah,
so
dude. Dogs they're
cool.
in tune with people. Not all of them, but if you give them a chance to kind of connect with you, it's a cool thing to have. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So go ahead,
please.
So you mentioned your industry, that you're in. That's another thing that I wanted to touch base on, and this might be a little controversial, but I think I'm super excited to know all about it. So this is your day to day, right? This is what you.
Yeah, my day to day now. Yeah, I started while I worked for Ruger. I started a side gig called That Meat Guy. That's the shirt that I'm wearing here.
Meat Guy. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
we do a little bit of subsistence living here at the house. We try to raise all of our own meat. I haven't bought meat in the store in years.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
I raise pigs and chicken and everything else that we then butcher and process. But so. That Meat Guy is my meat sales side of it. So I sell locally raised beef, pork, lamb, and goat to basically just the local area. I found a need that it was getting harder and harder for me to get processing dates to have my animals slaughtered. And so back in September of last year, one of the processing facilities that I use that's here local went up for sale. So I bought it. And
it seems like a big purchase, huh?
It was a really expensive purchase, and I ask myself every day why I do it.
Are you still? Have you did you make the right decisions?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay, good.
Yeah, definitely. I like being my own boss.
Me too.
There's, when you have employees, I've got right about around 20 employees. It can be difficult at times.
Sure.
But we provide a great service to the community. A lot of ranchers, basically, we're a slaughter facility, so we're killing animals. I probably do about 20 beef a week right now. And then you throw in hogs and lambs and goats to the mix of that too.
And this show for like personal ranchers that just have their own cattle for their personal use, and then also to like grocery stores and stuff, or
so we do two types of slaughter there. We have what we call the commercial slaughter. So that would be people that are reselling the meat. So that's when we do those slaughter days, we have a state inspector on site. And then that stuff will get packaged with the mark of inspection. It can be resold within the state of Arizona. It's not a USDA facility. It's an Arizona Department of Agricultural facility. And then we have what's called the custom side that we call the not for sale. So if you raised your own animal and wanted to have it processed to put in your freezer, then we can do that for you there too as well. And we do a lot of wild game during the hunting season. So kind of a little bit of everything. But yeah, there's a huge demand for it. My commercial side's already booked through December of this year.
Wow, dude, good for you. Is that something that you can expand? You know,
eventually I'd like
more
to.
People to help process more? Or?
It's not just, you got to have the room too.
Sure.
So like my hanging cooler, we age our beef for 10 to 14 days when in dry age. So eventually someday I'd like to expand that cooler to hold more volume, to be able to do more volume through there. And then of course you got to have the manpower. And
so is this just like a big giant warehouse that you have, and then you got like a refrigerated section in it? Is that kind of how that is, or?
Kind of, but not exactly. I mean, I got the
Kind of,
main
but not
building.
really.
So
Like,
yeah, I've got my office area. Then we have our fabrication area, which is connected to the cooler. And then on the other side of the cooler, and it's a huge cooler. There's like 25-foot ceilings in there. So these animals hang high. And then that comes into, there's a room off the back side of that, which is our slaughter room. So we've got some holding pens in the back. We run them up into a chute, put the animal down, and then start the process of, draining all the blood out of them, skinning and gutting, and then cutting them in half. And then they go into the cooler to hang. And then they'll come out the other side a couple weeks later for the fabrication side of it, where we'll cut it into steaks and basically however the customer wants it.
Wow. So, okay, I got to ask. So how do you put them down?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I'm like,
I got to ask.
Is that something?
No, I'm joking.
You're like, somebody go back to the wall of death over here.
So there's two methods. The most commonly method we use is basically just a 22 Magnum rifle.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah, one shot to the head.
That's even for like a big cow or something?
Yeah, big cow. One shot, you can drop them if you hit them in the right spot. So my kill guy has been doing it for 50 years.
So he knows what he's doing.
And he knows the stuff, and he's really good and efficient at it. So
stay away from that, guys. He's got dead souls flying around him at all times. mooing and oinking.
It's crazy. The if you watch the whole process, I mean, the shot goes off and that animal instantly drops. Okay.
That makes I feel okay about that.
Yeah. So they instantly drop, and they're elevated up. The ramp is up higher, and then we've got a slope off that. So we'll open that gate to the chute, and that animal will naturally roll down into what we call the kicking area. And it usually takes 10 to 15 seconds that it's laying there still, and then all of a sudden this just starts thrashing and kicking because it's brain dead, but it's still got some blood flow. So the muscles, the nerve endings are still firing off. The muscles don't know what to do. So it starts kicking, and it'll start groaning because there's still air in the lungs. So for someone that first sees it and doesn't know, they think that the animal's still alive, when in reality it's but it's dead instantly, probably before we even hear the gunshot go off.
It's like that chicken that gets his head cut off. He's still running around. Like
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
That's why I use a killing cone.
A killing cone?
Yeah, I use killing cones on my chickens. So it's like a funnel. So I grab the chicken by the legs and I shove them into this funnel, and their head pops out the bottom, and then I'll just slit the throat and bleed them out. And it just keeps them contained from flopping around and bruising the meat.
I've never heard of the killing cone before.
Yeah, they're killing cones.
That's gonna come up.
I remember Mom talking about when she was like on the farm when she was a kid and she plucking the chickens.
Yeah.
I have a plucking machine.
She was talking about the plucking machine before.
Yeah,
you put
I built
the chicken
one
in there. But that's after the cone of death, right?
That's after the cone of death. I'll remove the head once they stop moving. So I basically will slit their jugular vein, and bleed them out because it's more humane. They just kind of basically go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then,
Right.
they're done. So, and they will move around inside there a little bit. Same thing, the nerve endings are firing and the muscles just kind of contort and move. So I'll take the head completely off and then I take them over to what I call a scalding tank. So it's basically a pot that I have in a burner and I get the water around 160 to 165 degrees. And then I'll dunk the chicken into that a couple times and then walk it over to the plucking machine. And at that point, I'll remove the feet, turn the machine on, drop them in there, and about 20 seconds later, it's completely plucked.
That's crazy. It doesn't bruise the meat or anything like that?
No, I've got a video somewhere on Facebook. Yeah, I've got some YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that I have a video that we do the whole process on. But the first year we did it, before I had the plucking machine, it was about 20 minutes per bird to process when you're plucking it by hand.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was grueling.
And it's hard, right? I mean, it's kind of tough to do.
Yeah. So I told the wife after that, I said, if we're going to continue to do this, I'm building a machine to, pluck the feathers off.
Did you invent this machine or there's stuff online, right? Like
I watched a YouTube video and the guy just, luckily for me, had gone around that enough for me to see what was going on. And I was able to recreate something similar to what he had.
I saw something like a video that it looked like a washing machine. It looked like a top load washing machine. You set them down. It kind of
I actually use a half of a 55-gallon plastic drum.
Okay.
And then on the side walls, I attached what you can buy on Amazon. They're plucking fingers. They're just these rubber fingers that pull through the holes. And then I have a plate on the bottom that's attached to a motor. Then that plate spins and it's got fingers on it too. So it's kind of like a washing machine. It just spins at a high rate. And the chicken rolls around in there and all the feathers come off and, you pull it out and then finish, gutting it out and put it to a chill tank.
Obviously this is a pretty potentially a controversial thing, right? Now, there's a few things that I've seen throughout the years that make me, because people say, well, you wouldn't eat hamburgers if you knew how they were processed, right? And so that concerns me. The same thing with hot dogs and stuff. Like, so I don't watch those videos because I like hot dogs and I don't want to not eat them anymore. So I don't intentionally go see something that would change that. Right. But, so a few things. So, I've seen slaughter, and I imagine larger facilities probably do it a little differently than maybe you do. Yeah. I've heard stories like you have a sledgehammer, and in the center of the end of the hammer is like a little thumb, like a little pointy thing that sticks out, and you smack the
So years and years and years ago, they used to, in the big commercial industry, that's what they'd do, is they'd use a sledgehammer and whack them in the head as they came through the chute.
Okay.
And they don't do that process anymore. More commonly, I know some slaughterhouses use basically electric shock. Other slaughterhouses use a bolt gun, which could be pneumatic. Most of the big ones use a pneumatic one. So it's basically just a tool that's got a metal piston in there, and they just put it up on the head and they pull the trigger and it shoots the piston in and pierces the brain and kills the animal
right instantly, right?
Yeah, instantly. So it's pretty humane, but they utilize everything in those big packing plants. And you talk about hot dogs.
Dude, don't do it, dude. Just don't. All right, I tried to preface the thought with "don't do it."
Yeah, it's
do it.
Hamburger's not what you think, though. Like when we do hamburger meat here, there's only so many cuts you can get out of a steer. Okay, like brisket, for instance, there's only 2 briskets in an entire cow.
Okay.
So when you go to the grocery store, you see a whole display case full of briskets. That's a
lot of cows.
A lot of different cattle in there. Yeah. So
okay. There's not like fake brisket then.
Yeah.
Like fake. What's the little seafood things? The little round ones.
Scallops,
right? And then the fake scallops are just circular cut out of crab, right? And they just get the scallop. So there's not fake briskets. That's actually
no. You're not going to find that, but. When you do hamburger meat, you're cutting out all your primal cuts and cutting those into steaks, and then you're left with a bunch of other stuff that you can't really make anything out of. So that's what goes into grind.
Right.
It's trim. We'll trim that grind. As we're deboning, cleaning the bones off of meat, that goes into a grind bucket, and then we just throw that into a big meat grinder and it grinds it up, and it's all beef. There's nothing else in that. So nothing to worry about with your ground beef. Hot dogs, that's a different story.
Yeah, well,
And I won't
you
go
have
into
like you can look at you have chicken hot dogs, beef hot dogs,
Oh.
chicken and beef hot dogs,
Yeah.
and then
Other unidentifiable
other
hot dogs.
you know,
It doesn't quite tell you what part of the chicken
yeah.
or part of the beef or
It-
pork that goes
you
into
know,
that, but
I feel like
it-
our ancestors, when they caught an animal, they ate the whole thing.
That's
right?
true.
yes,
The whole thing. They're
Uh,
sucking the bone marrow out, whole thing. And if it was good enough for them, then yeah.
As long as
well,
you
I
can
mean
get
that's what it
down,
was.
yeah.
A lot of this stuff derives from you utilized every bit of the animal for something,
Yeah.
and nowadays it is. It's I think people kind of go through life a little blind because they're so used to the modern conveniences of
Mhm.
being able to get whatever you want at the grocery store. And not realizing where your food comes from. I literally had a conversation with somebody, and I had said to her, I said, "Well, where do you think your steaks come from?" And she goes, "Well, the grocery store."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like-
they're like
boy.
okay with that.
Yeah, because they don't want to know, So I mean, for that meat guy, I work a lot with trying to keep it local, so that we can control the whole process of how that animal's raised. Because we love on all our animals out here. I mean, my
Yeah.
pigs, I raise some of the friendliest pigs. I've got 2 sows that are pregnant right now, being ready to drop in June, and we will handle those babies up until they're ready for market.
Mm.
And they'll be some of the friendliest pigs you've ever met because we want them to have a happy life.
You don't name them, do you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Does
some of
it
them will
make
get
it
named.
harder?
No, not for me.
You're like, no,
Not for me.
no, I'm good.
I'm the kind of person that I've raised my kids, and my wife knows that everything on our farm has a purpose.
Yeah.
And when it stops serving that purpose, it becomes food. It will continue to serve a purpose throughout.
And-
So even
and
my
your
sows, what's that?
Oh, I'm saying, and your kids, can they understand all that?
Oh yeah, yeah. My 7-year-old Gemma, she is. They came out to the shop about a week ago, and it was on a kill day, and they wanted to come in and see. My oldest, she's okay with it. She's 9. She was fascinated with the guts, the heart, and she really enjoyed that part.
Like
but
what,
she had told
playing
me,
in it or eating it or both?
well, when they were cutting them, no, seeing them, actually
okay.
seeing it, being able to touch
You saw
it,
that show
and
Dahmer,
understand
right?
it. Yeah. And
careful with
I
that
said
shit.
to her name is Ruth. I said to her, I said, would you want to work here? And she goes, I'll wrap meat. She wants to be a wrapper. She just wants to wrap the packages and all that
Right,
other stuff.
right.
And I'm like, okay. And I looked at Gemma, who's 7, and I said to her, I said, what do you want to do if you work here? And she goes, I want to do what he's doing. And she was pointing to my kill guy. She wants to be
Wow.
in there killing animals and skinning them. And
You
and
wonder
she's my
the
biggest-
motivation behind that, right?
well, she's my biggest animal lover, though. I mean,
Right.
she loves animals, but she has no fear. They understand because from an early age, we've had them out there. When we were butchering pigs on the property or, doing chickens, they were out there helping with it. And they know the difference. They know where their food comes from, and they respect that.
There's obviously, yeah, I mentioned it's one of those topics that everybody has very strong opinions about, but and I try not to do this myself, but it seems like a lot of the loudest people really are maybe missing a lot of it, right? Or and maybe not the leaders of these different organizations and different movements, but a lot of the followers aren't they're kind of locking on to something that sounds horrible, but I mean, it's like, I mean, we all started out with animals. I mean, we our clothing and our food and our back in the day, it was a necessity. You didn't have the other options to clothe yourself or feed yourself besides
Right.
these animals that you're hunting or keeping, and to suggest that we're going to get rid of that is, I don't know. It's hard for me to.
The big problem is trying to figure out what the not ethical, but maybe ethical way of doing it is, right? Because you got the big factory farming, and that's not necessarily very ethical way of doing everything. You know what I mean? You got these chickens that just sit in these little cages their whole life, and
Right.
So it's like I think a lot of the time it's not so much what it is how it's done.
Well,
Yeah, I
but
agree with that.
society has created that, though.
Well, absolutely.
Well, sure, you can't
You
you can't satisfy the needs and the sheer immensity of these of the animals and the processing is fast enough to feed everybody
It's
and
right.
do it maybe the way you're doing it, right? I mean, is that true, you think?
Yeah, and that's what it really boils down to, is that as a society we've gotten so used to modern conveniences and being able to go to the grocery store and do the one-stop shop. But in order to feed the masses, you've got to do things
It just is what it
And
is.
to keep
make
it
you seem
affordable.
unethical, in some ways, in order to feed those people, with it. But if more people got into farming and raising their own stuff, there'd be a higher reward for them,
And less need
and
for
knowing that what they
huge-
raise is what's feeding their family.
Right.
And then you can control that more ethical side of it. And that's what I love about what we do, is that we are small scale. I don't ship it out of the United States, out across state lines. I keep it as local as I possibly can, so that it's a smaller base, smaller customer base. But we're also able to then raise these animals more in an ethical way and utilize more of that versus trying to feed the masses. And you get a better quality out of it too. There's a huge difference in what you buy in the store and what you buy from me in the quality of the meat.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, let's say somebody comes to you and says, "Look, dude, you're amazing at your job and you're really good. You know what you're doing as far as getting these animals slaughtered. I want you to come from here. I want you to run my multi-billion-dollar facility over here, and I'm going to make you, the CEO or whatever, and we're going to pay you, $1 million a year, a couple million a year, this is the way we do it over here." Is that something that you'd be like, "Yeah, I could do that," or you're like, "Nah, I think I want to keep it"?
No, because I'm not in this for the money. It's not about, when I started out doing this, how that meat guy evolved was just trying to put food on my own table. I started out with 3 pigs with the idea that I would raise all 3 up, get them, ready for butcher. I'd put 1 in my freezer, and then I would sell the other 2 as halves to other families to cover the cost of all that. So essentially I ate for free.
That's awesome.
And it just kind of evolved into a whole lot, more. But
It's a good idea.
I don't want to feed, I'm not, I don't know. I think for me, what I would rather see is other companies like myself start popping up all over the place,
Right.
And teaching people how to raise their own animals, and cultivate their own food in that sense, and use these smaller processing facilities for that instead of, doing it through the masses.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think it's a better quality of life all the way around. So I don't think I could take a job. I couldn't take a job like that. It just, for me, it's not. I like doing what I do.
Right.
I've worked for corporate America,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And then when you're dealing with ethics like that too, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
stay away from that altogether, huh?
it's just one of those things, And but it's society, and until society wakes up and says, "Hey, wait a minute here," you're complaining about something that you contribute to, because they're the ones shopping in the grocery stores and buying all these modern conveniences instead of learning how to raise stuff for themselves and be more self-sufficient.
It's just a lot. It's a lot of work,
Yeah,
It's a lot of
it
work
is.
that people don't want to do.
It's real easy for people to just kind of turn a blind eye and just, what do they say? Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
You
for
know?
sure. Yeah.
So some people purposely want to just stay ignorant to things. I mean, I know.
Well,
I think I do on certain
Yeah,
things.
like hot dogs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm okay with that.
It's convenience. I mean, and that's what it boils down to. I mean, I still shop in the grocery store, obviously, because there's things that we need to get. Especially in the winter months. In the summer months, like spring's coming up here, we're getting ready to start the garden. And but for me, there's nothing more fulfilling to sit down for a dinner and look at everything that's on my plate and know that it came from my farm.
That's cool.
That we fed ourselves in that sense. And I think I think we're starting to change a little bit. I know the city of Prescott Valley just passed an ordinance allowing people to, within the city limits, to raise a handful of chickens and rabbits for, eggs or for human consumption. Rabbit meat is a really healthy choice of meat. I deal in rabbit as well. It used to be a part of the American diet. It was a staple, before the mass production of chickens. Then it just kind of fell off because it was easier to raise chickens.
Right.
Because they're, a multi-purpose type of bird in that sense. So it kind of became more taboo for people to eat rabbit because they became more pets than anything else. And
is
you'd be
rabbit
surprised.
good? You mean you
Oh
like
yeah,
the taste
yeah.
of it? Is it gamey? I don't even know what gamey means really.
Wild rabbit. If you're eating wild rabbit, you're going to get that game in it. You know what I mean? But when you're eating farm raised rabbit,
because what they're eating, right? That changes the taste of the meat.
Yeah. With a lot of animals, that's what they eat. I think pork is probably one of the few things that, no matter what you feed it, it doesn't necessarily affect the flavor of what's there because just how they process. Because they're omnivores. Pigs are not vegetarians.
Grains and meat. And people.
They'll eat anything.
Don't isn't if you're trying to get rid of a body that you just throw them into a pen and then
nothing left
a day later, right?
Yeah, eight pigs can devour a body in about 16 minutes. Don't ask me how I know that.
That's great.
I'm joking.
Well, we know where to go. We know where to go.
But they. But like with beef, how you finish those beef out are really going to affect the flavor of that meat.
When you say like a lot of finish it, like the last few weeks that they're eating type of things, you mean?
Yeah. So, like on grain fed or finished, usually what you'll see is you start out with a free range animal that you guys encountered out there in the, deserts of Arizona or wherever else.
Yeah.
And then they'll pull those animals into a feedlot and finish them on, maybe corn and alfalfa hay and, some other stuff for that last 90 to 120 days. And that builds your fat content and your marbling in that meat. Grass finished is going to be a lot more lean.
Steak after this.
Right? Yeah, grass finished is a lot more lean. You're not going to have that fat content. So it becomes harder to age. When you're dry aging meat, you need that fat content for protection of the meat when you do the dry age on it. If you don't have enough fat on there, then you can't hang it as long. Otherwise, the meat just it's not the same. So there's a lot of differences in it. I'm not a big fan of grass fed myself. I love old fashioned, grain finished beef because you've got nice fat and marbling, and fat is where the flavor is.
That's the yummy part.
It is the yummy part.
Yeah. It's what makes it good.
Yeah. It's got all that flavor.
Awesome. I love meat.
Yeah.
I eat it.
I would hate to not love meat.
That would suck.
You know what I don't get is
like meat anymore. I'm like, what's
you got vegans and vegetarians and all that stuff out there, and there's some company in Switzerland that's developing a 3D printed meat.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier.
And it's basically just plant proteins, and I'm like, why? If you're so against meat, then why? Be what you are.
Like you're eating meat.
And in all honesty, if you're a beef eater, you're technically a vegetarian.
Yeah,
I mean, because if you are what you eat, and you're eating vegetarians, which are beef, they don't eat anything but grass, right, and grains, so they're vegetarian. That's the true vegan meat right there.
Dude, I respect everybody's choices, right? I really do.
Of
And I
course,
really want everybody to do what makes you feel right, because we only have 100 years on this planet if you're lucky, and do you, right? That's do you and whatever, and leave everybody alone. But if you really start looking at all the whether you eat meat or you don't, you're vegan, that everything kind of comes back around at some point, right? Animals die. So a good friend of ours, Ziders over here, that they have a few cows, and very similar. They was talking about he's finishing them off and this and that, and they got potbelly pigs. I guess you don't really eat potbelly pigs.
You can, but
it's different than kinds of pigs. And they have chickens, but they have to kill all of these. They have a rabbit problem. There's rabbits freaking everywhere that destroy things, and I think it's squirrels or some other little, and they go out and kill those. Right, they poison them or they kill them, and because they are trying to have these fields that they're raising vegetables on
for the vegans
vegans to eat.
Yeah,
and so I mean, if you go far back, they all kind of come together. They cross roads in so many different areas. It's kind of and like I said, and I'm ignorant on a lot of these things, so I might just be straight talking up my ass. And when you have your own podcast, you can do anything you want. So that's cool,
right. Right.
But I feel like at some point it all kind of comes back around. It's kind of silly to be really on one far end of the spectrum than the other, because they all just have to do with each other.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, to each their own, and it doesn't matter to me what people want to eat. If that's the lifestyle they choose, then
Yeah, it
that's
makes
up
them
to
happy,
them.
then do it.
But they got to understand that it goes right back to people being blind about where their food comes from, whether you're vegan or vegetarian or a meat eater. Um, you're absolutely right. There's those paths are going to cross. Somewhere along the line, there's something that's going to die from that. Just to protect your particular crop to feed people that only eat vegetables. So
yeah.
it's there.
And what you're doing is probably more responsible than a lot of other things because you're trying to utilize everything, right? Because it's all all on your land, or at least a lot of it, right? So you have to consider what happens to the dirt if you're growing crops, and then you got to consider what happens to what waste you have when you're processing animals, and all of that kind of stays local, right? I mean, the more you can do and take care of locally, then the less money you're paying other companies or something outside of the area to help you.
Yeah, we actually have one of the ranches nearby lets us dump guts on their property. So after we kill the stuff like stomach and intestine that you can't do anything
with. I feel like what do they do with that? They just...
Well, they have a lot of land that they raise cattle on. So the biggest problem they have is during the calving season is coyotes killing calves and eating calves.
Okay.
So what they do is they want us to dump guts so that the coyotes stay fat and full. And are not looking to kill, their calves. Yeah. So it kind of benefits. It's an area that we can get rid of stuff. The natural wildlife, it's not ending up in a landfill. They eat it all up, keeps them fed, and keeps them away from the rancher's cattle.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So there you go. There you have it. There's my point. So,
well, hey, dude. Really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, man.
It's been a good conversation. I've been thinking a little bit more and more, kind of leading up to having you on the show. When we started this thing, we've always known it's going to kind of keep evolving. And I still think we're far from having it dialed into what, the ultimate idea of the never inside theory is. But more and more, I'm starting to see, when you expressed interest of wanting to be on the show after being a listener of ours, it's cool. It's cool to know that we're actually, people are actually listening, not just our friends to be to give us some pity listens, but there's actually too, some people out there that at least think that these topics are worth just sitting down to and being part of a conversation for an hour every now and then. So it's really cool that you came on. You've also inspired me. Actually, I got just a couple days ago, we got a random message on Instagram from one of our listeners that have no idea how he even found us. Guys in Wyoming thought what we're doing was like a really cool thing. And I'm even considering, he said he wants to kind of start something in his community that's like, trying to help get people out in the wild, outside, do some outsiding. Mm-hmm. And, I thought maybe we could have him on the show. So this may be like a thing, like I want to keep getting good quality guests on the show. Like next week, we've got another Naked and Afraider.
Oh,
cool. Kai Fernio. I'm gonna confirm exactly how that's pronounced next week. But she was on Naked and Afraid multiple times. But I also want to make sure that we're getting people like Mike on here, and like this other guy on here that really just genuinely love the conversations that are going on and want to be a part of them. Right. Because that's the people that we want to be listening. So why not have them as part of those conversations?
I think what you guys are doing are great. We don't do enough outsiding as a society. We're glued to our electronics. You know what I mean? And it's a necessity. Don't get me wrong. A lot of my business is through social media.
Look at where we're sitting.
But,
yeah, right.
Yeah, but whenever you can't get outside to do that, I mean, when I bought that travel trailer, I would say that 90% of the people out there that buy travel trailers, that those things sit most of the year.
Yeah.
We
have a fishing boat that's just sitting there forever.
I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to be able to make sure that I was using that. So I want to make sure that 9 to 10 months out of the year, we're out in that thing and getting use out of it. And
good for you, dude. Yeah.
And there's a lot of outside stuff to do, whether you're farming or whether you're hunting, whether you're out shooting, it's all outside. And I think what you guys are doing is great. So
thanks, man.
Keep up the good work with that. And I hope it grows.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we're gonna keep pushing the stocking up on vitamin D.
That's
All
right.
Natural vitamin D, right?
Absolutely, the natural vitamin D.
And I know that you have a lot of cool things that are coming up that we're not going to talk about. You're one of those dudes that's always got something on the back burner, a lot like Luke and I do. And so we will definitely have you back on. So I'm excited on all the cool ventures that you got going on too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll have some updates for you guys soon. That is one of my flaws, is that I'm in a million different directions all the time, and I'm always
the choir, dude.
So familiar.
10 steps ahead of myself, and I got to sometimes reel myself back in and go, okay, you need to just focus on this for right now, and this other thing will come. But yeah, I'm excited for it, and I can't wait to share it with you guys.
I can't wait to tell everyone what the hell we're talking about. But hey, do you have any kind of social media, email address, any kind of contact information you want to throw out there in case anyone's interested in talking to you about anything that you've brought up?
Yeah, they can hit me up through on Facebook. I'm That Meat Guy LLC. I have a website that is thatmeatguyaz.com. It's mostly for my meat sales, but they can hit the contact form if they have questions about anything and hit me up. So
right on.
Yeah.
Cool. You got anything else?
No, dude. I just appreciate you being on, Mike. You're a cool dude on the freaking podcast, just like when we hung out in Arizona. So
appreciate it.
I'm glad to have you as a friend, dude.
Yeah, it's good to actually have a conversation with you. Kind of
not just planning on when we're gonna be able to talk. So
well, you guys let me know the next time you're coming up to Prescott. Give me some advance notice, and I'll try and set some time.
We're gonna do it soon. We're gonna do it soon. The weather's starting to warm up a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to go, do some wheeling. Right,
yeah,
that's
there
what
you go.
the four-wheeler guys call it, wheeling. So
that's what you call it now.
I don't like.
You're part of the club.
I want to call it something else, but
you'll
I'm
cave.
not the one that. I'll cave. That's right.
Because I have a feeling it's because it's the easiest, quickest way to say it.
Yeah, off-roading.
It's just two syllables instead of
Yeah, for sure. Oh, one last thing that I learned that my buddy told me is that Jeep. So I ride a motorcycle, right? Harley, right? So when you're cruising around Harley and you pass on the Harley and you give them the, what's up?
Yeah.
And so Jeeps do this too.
Yeah.
Except for Cherokees, apparently. Like, is that
really?
right? Is that a thing?
Yeah, because you got those guys in the the Wranglers or in the Rubicons, that are just very, they got those Jeep clubs, and if you have something lesser than that, then you're just. It's like a Harley rider and somebody who's riding like a Honda VTX.
You know what though? I've been riding for a long time, and I wave to any motorcycle, any other.
I always
bike.
did when I was
now.
riding.
I even get button hooked, and a scooter's coming along, and I'm like, "What's up?" I'm like, "Ah, shit, dude! You're not supposed to wave at scooters."
I always get pissed off that the bike cop doesn't wave back. I'm like,
dude, I've had many bike cops wave.
I've had them wave, but I think I've had more not wave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've never had a problem with that.
No.
I mean, but I think you're going to find that driving the Cherokee, it's going to be. But you know what, man? You got to do what you do, and you've got yourself a vehicle you can get out there and have fun in, and that's all that matters.
That's right. I just thought that was a
hater's going to hate.
Yeah. That's right.
They're just mad because theirs isn't as comfortable as yours is.
Well, I don't know how comfortable it is. It's old and it's got but it's bouncy, but it's awesome.
You can put scratches on yours with a big smile on your
face.
That's
right. Oh, I'm going to be plowing this through it. I'm like, I can get to the other end of that. You just got to go fast enough. So
that's it.
So, all right, man. You take care of yourself, brother, and
thank you guys.
We will talk to you very soon.
Yeah, thanks again.
Looking forward to it.
Everyone out there, all our outsiders, please do us a favor and subscribe. We need
hit the like button.
Hit the like button, share, all that good stuff. We're on Apple Podcasts now. We've noticed that you guys have been listening on Apple Podcasts, so keep promoting that for us. We do have, I think we're probably supposed to have done it this time, but on the next episode, I'll make sure and give away our Blackbeard Firestarter plasma arc lighter.
And we got a lot more people that have emailed in.
Yeah, so get your emails in there.
From the last thing we gave away, there's only, just a very few people.
Yeah, we had like two. Yeah, this time we have like three.
And what was our Wood? Mr. Wood?
Yeah, Chuck Wood.
Chuck Wood won it last time.
Charles Wood. But
Charles Wood.
We'll call him Chuck Wood from now
Chuck.
on.
So good. Yeah, people, it's real. People are winning cool little things.
Yep, just go to the neverinsidetheory.com, scroll to the bottom, and you will find the place to enter your email address for that. Go follow us on all our social media. You can find it pretty much anywhere, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Join our other mailing list just randomly if you'd like to get all this cool info coming at you all the time from the
Yeah,
Never
haven't near enough.
Inside Shack. And make sure you go buy stuff online at our website, neverinside.com. Speaking of that, we've got Bottle Jack Buddy is one of our vendors that we've been working with. And they are actually our
killing it.
top seller on our website. So there's a strong chance that in the near future we're going to have the owner, creator of the Bottle Jack Buddy on here to talk about his product and how cool it is. So that should be exciting.
Fun.
So next week though, Naked and Afraid is the topic. It's going to be super cool. We've got Kai's survival book. It's called Survive something, and it's on our website as well. Go check it out. And she will be on here to talk about that. And that's it. Anything else? Anyone?
Nope.
All right. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
It's been a good episode. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Pound
Thanks
sign.
for having me.
Yep.
Pound some sign.
Pound. Wow. Thank you again to all of our outsiders. Please check out our website, neverinside.com, for all of your gear. And you can reach out to Never Inside on Facebook and at Never Inside on Instagram. Let's outside.